Thank you. So we good? We're live?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I will call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody that joining us here today, my council member, as well as the people on Zoom. So before I go any further, I'm going to ask any councillor's message, Deputy Mayor Dench.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick note of thanks to the Public Works Department. As I drive through different communities, I'm seeing the branches slowly disappearing from the roadside. I know they're trying to fit this work into their busy schedules already. So thanks very much for the accommodating us and allowing the work to continue on. So thank you.
So my mistake, I won't make you repeat it, but I guess I called it to order, but I have to open the resolution. So be it resolved that this regular meeting now be opened at 6:33 p.m. Moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. All in favor. Motion is carried. Be it resolved that the agenda be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Councillor McDonald. All in, or any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of North Stormont accept the operational plan for the Township of North Stormont's drinking water system as presented by Ontario Clean Water Agency, Aqua, and direct the mayor and the CA clerk to endorse the plan for this term of council. Before pecuniary, yeah. So before I go, any declaration of pecuniary interest or nature thereof, seeing none. The motion that was just read is moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. And welcome, Don. I hope that all of council has read the full report because we are going to be tested, I believe, after this. He said that. So no, it's I don't believe we're going to go through the whole presentation. Do you want to maybe just speak on it lightly, and then if there's questions from council, maybe direct them to you, or is there anything that you need to address?
Sure. So I think the councillors are offered or are take these standard of care reports offered by the water agency. But just so you have a kind of an understanding of where this is coming from. So this stems from the Walkerton inquiry. So we have a drinking water quality management standard comes to DWMS that we have to follow for municipally owned drinking water systems. So one thing that you have to have is an accredited authority. So Aqua is an accredited operating authority. We are audited every year by a third party to maintain that accreditation. So we're audited every year, and every third year there's a full reaccreditation audit that we have to go through, again, to maintain that accreditation. And one of the other components that we're required to have is the operational plan. So this is written by Aqua on behalf of the Township of North Stormont. We have one plan for all three drinking water systems. So a few things. So we have our own internal QEMS, so quality environmental management system. We have a policy that we follow. So you can find our policy listed there in the plan, and it's reviewed by our so for the operational plan, we require commitment. There's a commitment and endorsement page. So our top level myself in it as well as the township. So we need the council resolution that you approve and accept the operational plan, and then we can sign off on that. They request now that we do that anytime there's a change in council. So we're redoing that commitment and endorsement every 3 years. So overall, there's 21 elements to the plan. If you look, you'll see we have documents and records control. We have to do, we have our description of all the drinking water systems. You can read that. We have our risk assessments. So obviously we have standard operating procedures, contingency plans in place in case of emergency. There's some tables in the plan that we have to go through, and we have to review that every year and make sure that everything still stands, or if there's anything that has changed, update it, and maybe implement a new contingency. And then a lot of the rest of it, I think, kind of speaks more to how we're structured, for instance, our organizational structure is in there. And overall, how, how we communicate within, we provide the capital major maintenance recommendations on an annual basis, so I usually review the draft with Blake before it's submitted to council. And the last element is continual improvements. You're always looking, we perform internal audits, we have management reviews on an annual basis to make sure that the system is working, identify any deficiencies and address those.
From the report, any question towards or concerns, comments? Go ahead, Councilor Bajelli.
Just one comment, operationally, the plan seems pretty sound as far as it's a very well organized structure. Just when I was going through the summary of the risk assessments, just trying to get a feel for the different facilities and is there anything really imminent that would be in our control to protect? I see the two highest areas. One would be loss of precipitation, which kind of is across the board and is completely outside of our control. The other one that kind of popped out at me was the potential for loss of communications. And that would be, I'm assuming, the relays from the different locations back, that it's the risk assessment on that is a little bit higher. Is that something that we should be reviewing in the coming years, as obviously an event like that where there would be a loss of communication, that time gap might be critical?
Yeah, so I mean, that's something that we're looking at internally as well. One of here, but because we have radios that operate, so like our plants respond to that point of the power. In the event of loss of communications, we can override that manually, go on site and address it. So it is something that we can look at if there's maybe some redundancy that we can put in terms of communication, but we have been able to manage by operating in manual.
From this side, my only, so in the past, so we've been doing this, we get audited. You say that every year, and then there's every 3 years that we get a reaccreditation. So in the past, moving forward to today, are we everything is compliant? Is there any red flags that maybe we should be made aware of, that something as far lack of investment, or is there something, or are you guys all comfortable the way it's being operated and how we moving forward?
Yeah, there's nothing really big that's come up. Mostly in our audits, we identify OFIs or opportunities for improvement, and if there is any capital, then I would include that in the recommendation that I discussed.
So I think we're, just for council's sake, member or new members of council. So we are, as council, we are responsible for the water system in North Stormont, the quality, so we rely on Aqua, but I believe that you guys have the expertise, and I feel confident that we're protecting the interest of the township. So if I don't have any other questions, so are we just accepting the report, or is this giving you
through the chair, this will accept the report to give us an idea of what to sign the document.
to approve it? Perfect. So as it was read, I was moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Go ahead.
Previous meeting, I said that Don be here. There was a couple questions on the water system report that we discussed, Don and I discussed after, but if council has any questions on the water system that they want verified from the previous report that you guys have endorsed. It's time to ask on. One question was with the salt content in Moose Creek. And another thing was that we talked about would be, the question came in was, people come and go. The legislation only requires every 5 years, but we, if council endorse it, we want to publicize it every year. That's up to council position.
Right now, what are we publicizing it every year?
No,
Yeah, so I'm not sure what,
the salt content in the.
Yes, I think I'm right. Sodium and Finch.
Finch and Moose
Moose
Creek
and
would have exceeded on the sodium, and they're on the same schedule, so we retest that every 6 years. And then we get that letter from the medical officer of health, and we communicate that to the residents in those villages.
Which implies, if you only test it every 60 years, it implies that it's not likely to change in short periods of time.
It doesn't vary too much, unless you have the different waters.
Thank you. Thanks for the reminder, Blake.
with experience, so if I see there's change in the, if it's something that needs to address concerns that our residents might have, I would, but I mean, there's a judgment call there that I believe if there's anything that would put turn on a red light, you would contact, and then the decision would be made on at that time. Am I correct on saying that?
Yeah.
Council comfortable with that? Perfect.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor, one last thing on that. I guess, as you said, we communicated every 5 years. But if somebody is new to the neighborhood who may have a medical issue, they would not receive any special communication. Is there anything that goes out to somebody who moves in, is new on the tax roll, for example, in a notification that would go out to somebody who's new moving into Moose Creek or going into Finch, that when they get their first tax bill, maybe we would say, by the way, you haven't received that. And I don't know that that would be an Aqua thing. I'm wondering whether it's more an administrative thing on our side. How we-
Chair, if that's a direct council would have to link with administration, typically a finance team. But again, however you want, because we will.
So for new residents, we do give them notice for an ownership change.
Yeah.
Chair Hopper wouldn't have access to
No,
the sales, so we would have to follow.
yeah, if there is an initial communication that goes out to new owners, which it sounds like there is, and it's a process that's easily modified, I think it just might be good to stick a note in there. Whether it's a generic one that goes out to everybody that says, by the way, in Moose Creek and Finch, or if you wanted to personalize it, whatever's going to create the lowest amount of cost and effort, I would think. If that's feasible.
I'm just smiling because I'm thinking, like, welcome to Moose Creek. There's a lot of salt in the water.
Yeah.
But maybe there's like a resources or welcome page that has a bunch of information you could direct them to, or I don't know. But I think it's a very good idea, and I agree. People have health concerns around the salt, so I do think it's a good idea.
Through the chair, we also, for starting, for taxes, tax insert, newsletter, perhaps that would be another avenue, because the kind of speaks on the township of what's happening all over, so.
Yeah, from my perspective, if it's simple internal decision, go for it. If it's something you want to go back and research and bring back to council, I'm fine either way.
And last to add to that, so if you have the welcome, because I presume they come and get their recycle bin, they come, so I don't know if there's something in that avenue that could be, here's the sort of the welcome package. So maybe further discussion.
So, the criteria for the regulation is so fine that, it's not like the average person want to say, well, I got salt by water. It's. Where is it?
It's very low, yeah, and for the notifying them as dietary.
Thank you. Yeah. So be it resolved that the following minutes be approved as presented for the special meeting of March 27th, 2023. The zoning amendment public meeting of April 11th, 2023, as well as a regular meeting of April 11th, 2023. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Shane. Any discussions on those three? Or seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that council receives the action report for the zoning bylaw amendment application Z 2023-06 for Buchan as submitted by the township consultant planner and approves the recommendations contained therein. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor Shane. We will pass it over to Mr. Young, if you can give us the report before we go.
Thank you, Mayor Laundrie. So just quickly, after our last meeting, we met with the owner and reviewed the potential site plan, see what parts bylaw they meet and not meet. So there's a few exemptions you'll see in bylaw in terms of the frontage, how much is taken up by pavement. If you drive by the property, you'll see it's already kind of like that, and then would just be a little bit of extension, so that people could drive up right to their need. So we didn't have any negative comments from the public, neighbors, or agencies, so.
Is this passing it, or are we just accepting the report and we'll pass it in bylaw after? So just to accept the report, I have a mover seconder. Any further question to Mr. Young? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, Peter. Be resolved that council approves the proposed roadway visibility policy for North Stormont Township roadways. Moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Councillor Bajelli. Any reason to Blake, you want to speak on this? Quickly, just to give the overview.
It's very good with my son street back. They go 6 years ago. And I think council and public know that some areas in this valley where people were aggressively planting crops or trees or whatever in the rollouts, that this gives us some control and some guidance to actually approach different ones and make this a standard for the roadways and rollouts. So it's pretty straightforward. If we cut some crops down, if they plant too close to the road, or get this basically safety hazards, rollouts, intersection, driveways, whatever that is brought forward, or we see that we can react on it and have some grounds to say, okay, here's the policy, this is what we do. We have to remove this from the rollouts for safety.
Through the chair, this is rather timely. With this policy being given now, last time we did have several inquiries with some concerns with some of the intersections and line of sight for the and traffic. So my hats off to the public works team and getting this objective measurement to ensure that we have the sites.
Any questions from council? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Densham.
So a couple of things. One is, it sounds to me like this is really a seasonal issue and it's more a plant. Basically, like we don't have obstructions, like people putting up signs and things like that are blocking intersections. Is that correct? Or can it be both? Thank you.
Well, we have had problems with signs, rollouts, but yes, it's being a rural area that's mainly full crops that is creating the safety hazard.
Okay, yeah, I get my bigger question was, do we have people who currently, like right now, given the fact that most of the fields aren't planted yet, are out of compliance? Are we going to have to go and remove anything now, or is this more to prevent?
This is more to educate the residents, the public. Now this is in place. I have gone in the past and actually approached it. Owners say that, no, this gotta go as a safety concern, but this gives us some meat and potatoes and say, well, council endorsed this policy. This is why I'm asking you to do this.
Okay, well, that's great, perfect. So it gives you the framework to make the decision. My last point would be, if we're not already planning to, can we just put a post up on our website, social media, just informing people of this?
We also looked at the flyer going out in the tax bill. To add this policy that is endorsed tonight on the flyer.
Any other questions, concern? I'll add one. So I've seen it in small back roads you'll be driving. I've seen times where you meet another car and my mirror is hitting corn stalks because it's so narrow. So they do impede. My only concern is if we are, and I think in the past you have gone out and cut down a few rows of crops to basically put the point, it should not be borne on the taxpayers' dime. So to me, if we're going to be looking at that, we should make it even more so that they're aware. I'm not saying we're not getting a surveyor to identify where the line is, but I mean, that areas where you've got a foot and a half or a foot away from the gravel road bed and they've got corn up. And to me, that should be cost recovery if we're spending time, tax dollars to go and start clearing. And there was areas where you're basically throwing your car in the intersection to, so there's not many, I don't like driving through, but there's a few cases where I did get a call. I've gone out and strongly believe that there was safety issues and it shouldn't be wasting your time when it should not be put in the road.
Certainly through the chair, the township's preferred method of compliance is voluntary compliance. So certainly our public works team will speak to the property owner to get cut it down voluntarily. Only after we've exhausted every other opportunity to get voluntary compliance, if there's legal action. Cut it down.
And our road allowance are 66 feet. So when you're looking at 33 for center line of road, when our gravel road is only 15 feet wide or more or less. So there's still, so I understand a little bit of it, but there's times it's just, they go above and beyond their and that's all my concern is. We would address them to actually go and with the harvester and take a few rows out before having township staff do.
No, and like, I mean, I've been around the quite a while and I actually know the areas. I know the farmers, I know the different people that this would be definitely brought to the attention for the crops over the ground.
Yeah. Thank you. So the motion's read and moved. So any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that council receives this report for information purposes and approves the option to opt out of providing collection services during the transition period in accordance with the Regional Waste Management Working Group that Blake Henderson sits on the committee of. That's been moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor Shane. So this is in regards to the direction we're going to be going with our recycling. And maybe I'll get this program is at its infancy. We're more or less also council is just learning of the direction that these, so basically is they're putting the onus on the producers to cover or basically collect and pay for the collection of recycling. So Blake, did you want to?
I can just a few concerns we can actually make this pretty quick. There's a lot of odd orange yet. We're the last area to be transitioning. So basically, it's the transition is January 1st, 2025. Full produce responsibility is, or the approach command is January 1st, 2026. There was some questions asked me that I can maybe answer right away. Would be that the processing plants, basically, we don't know who's going to do the collection, who's going to do the processing. If they're going to put a transfer station in and take this to the Toronto area. All that stuff is still up in the air. So basically, what they do is they're going to tender out our area for collection, processing, the whole bit.
I'll interfere. So when you say they are, so who's they? So who's driving this?
There's so many groups that changed hands here. It's Circle Material Ontario, that's main company now that the government has kind of decided to do this process. But what they're doing now is they're giving Toronto starting July 1st, 2020. They have contractors in place to do their collection. And so they actually put out to contracts to do the processing of that. So what they're doing now, like we're 2025, they've been putting out tenders for someone to collect Eastern Ontario. We're talking maybe Peterborough to that border. So that's something that they're going to be doing this year, next year. So, like I said, we don't know a lot of things, how big these companies going to be. It's going to be someone looking after FDG, or someone looking after all of Eastern Ontario. So it's a learning curve. It's unknowns right now. So we can't really give you definite answers, but as the statement reads that as a group in SDG, we're supporting the process of opting out. I don't want to actually tell you this, but we can always opt back in, but it's only going to be for 1 year. Once 2026 comes, everybody's out. So, more on that.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll go to questions and maybe it's gonna get some of the more questions to be answered. So I'll start on this side. So Councillor Bajelli.
So I'd have to say, yeah, with a lot of variables and a lot of unknowns at this point. For instance, like is there any potential benefit to buying in for a short period of time until we know what the terms of, that master service agreement, what we're talking at dollars and cents wise, and if there's going to be drop-off spots. I guess it's hard to really come to any decision saying, is there any potential benefit at all, or is there just huge liability without knowing those unknowns?
Well, it's a liability that we, as a territory or region, that we don't give them consent to say we want to work as a group in FDG. And so we have more power as a bigger municipality or as regional government to say we don't like this. Can we tell the government that we don't like what you're doing here as a bigger regional group? As you stick at one municipality and you don't have the same amount of government. So that's why we're at this point with all the unknowns, all the variables that could, cost us more money. Well, why take a chance and put your single municipality at risk to say, well, that was a bad decision back in 2023. Like I said before, we can still go back in if all of a sudden the council wishes and we know all the facts, we know all that, but it's just be for the 1 year.
No, I think in saying that without knowing those dollars and cents
Yeah.
to go in for a year alone, if we had all the numbers in front of us, you know, maybe we can make a concrete call on that, but I would agree at this point, without knowing all the dollars and cents, it would make sense for a 1 year transition.
And for the record, I believe the other 5 municipality in SDNG, I think, is everybody hopping out?
In theory, I don't know if they got council resolution, I hope they did. Motion, okay, support?
Yep.
Well, 5 plus city farm, I was talking to Dave Freeman. And they-
Without resolution, or whereas they're taught that they are hopping out as well?
Well, no, it's, some of them haven't gone to the other stage right now and said, yes, council has passed, they're opting out. They're still in the process of doing that, so.
Through the chair. What I think Blake is trying to indicate is we are ahead of some of our counterparts. But all of these stakeholders, the experts within the respective townships, the SDG, are all in agreement that at this point with the information kept available, that we are opting out.
Yes. But I don't want to talk for other councils.
Yeah.
Yes.
But as a group with a regional group that
Yeah.
you've got for. Go ahead, Council, or Deputy Mayor Dencham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, and I think, how are you gonna know until you start, right? So if we opt out, then we're gonna live it and we're gonna see. And so I guess we're recommending though that we keep all of our equipment and hang on to that in case we wanted to reverse the decision, right? And or so by opting out, you mean, actually, let me first ask a question. What do you mean by, what are we opting out of? Opting out of producer?
Of the collection.
Of the
Collection of
producers.
Recyclable materials
Of-
only, we would still.
who
be
collecting? Of us collecting it? Okay, so we're saying producers take over.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's why I first understood it. So again, I think I support that because if it's ultimately going to be the way we go, I would rather live it and then deal with it. And again, as you said, we're not the first, we're kind of near the end, right, of making that
Yeah.
decision. So we've had an opportunity, or your group has had an opportunity to look around, see how people are dealing with it right now. And so the question is, when will we be making a decision? Because we won't need the truck anymore, right?
In the program, there'll be recyclables out there that they are not going to be responsible for. Well, maybe I get an answer there.
Through the chair, we go into exclusively through the commercial property.
Commercial.
That was my next question. Yeah. Yeah, I know, what do we do currently? Do we pick up for farms and commercial?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
and I saw that in the presentation that producers are not responsible for them.
yes, that's right. So it's, and that's gonna, what we discussed too, because we're in 2025, we're gonna have time to realize or figure out what we can do. We've got 2 MRF plants in SDNG. They don't know what they're gonna do with their equipment or what is feasible for them. In this program, they do not have to accept a process that does not have to accept our IC&I and municipal buildings and stuff. Okay,
Yeah, I saw that.
page 39. They don't have to accept it. So it's going to be a talk within the group that does rare want to keep going, maybe I've talked to Tim. And I mean, that's up to their council is what the cost would be to actually process the products that we might collect. It'd be up to council to decide if they want to give the service to the non residential properties that produces recycling. But we're going, like I said, we have time to learn and have time to see what the big picture is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, through the chair, we know, just indicate, I think we're fortunate that we're gonna have the luxury to, I guess, analyze the really successive failures of some of the pioneering townships, so I guess got that 2 year window to try and out what the best course of best practice are.
So just the hopping out that we're talking about is only taking place on January of 2025.
Yes,
So we got a year and a half before this actually is taking.
yeah.
Do we know whether or not, and this would be counterintuitive if they did, like right now, for recyclables, there's no cap on the amount that we can put out at the end of our driveway. I know there is for garbage, but not for recycle. Do we know whether or not there's ever going to be a cap?
No, there should be no cap.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, because again, that's counterintuitive to the principle of what we're doing. And I also noticed that there's a change in what can be left out at the end of the driveway. It looks like there's more things now. So for example, plastic plates and forks and stuff like that, or there were elements anyhow that couldn't. Do you know whether styrofoam is allowed? Because right now we can't put styrofoam out there, yet it's a packing material used for shipping from producers. So I was hoping that we would see styrofoam as well put on the list of allowable items to be collected by, or mandatory for producers to collect.
As far as I know right now, it's, no.
That's it. Thank you, that's great.
Yeah, so I guess like the biggest, well, first of all, I needed to really understand what opt-out meant, because it was a little bit confusing to read, but I guess I get it now. But I was concerned about service levels, I was concerned about commercial businesses, concerned about the infrastructure of the trucks and stuff that we have now as an investment and what we're gonna do with them. So I think you've kind of answered most of those questions, and there's still things we can't answer. Is there an expected cost savings for the municipality? Is this actually going to be financially at least more efficient for the residents?
Yes, it's going to vary, depends on what council decides when they look at the big picture and what actually we're going to actually keep doing. And what the cost is going to be to keep doing, you know, the commercial places or the collection of whatever. If it's, you also think if some items are like it's on page 47, it shows you 3 transition growth. Transition, the products are going to take. They have to, in the transition period, take what we're taking now. They can also increase what they want to take in item wise, if it's profitable for them. I imagine like any company is going to look at what is more profitable, what's more cost savings on their part. There is, I think down in, where did I see that? There is goals that the government is setting for them to, if I can just find it now.
Yeah, how much of each type they want to recycle?
Yeah, and the percentage of what they produce and what they collect. So there's goals that forcing them to meet these goals, collecting more recyclables. If they produce, for example, 100 tons of plastic bottles, and I think it's 2030, they're supposed to collect 85% of that product. So they should be collecting 85 tons. Good math. 85 tons of that product to meet the government standards. So basically, there is force on them to be more productive and increase the system. But the problem would be is things could always change. And that's the worst thing whenever you have government and you have private business trying to work at the same group. They're going to be fighting government all the time. This is going on for a number of years. And like the mayor said, it's we have time to see exactly how the other transition period turns out and what we could do.
through the chair, and this is all speculative, but certainly there's going to be an educational component that shifts. Blake and I have talked along with Elliot, and I don't think there's any misconception that there'll probably be some changes in service levels. I think everybody will be constantly aware that solid waste and recycling collection are very separate topic in our township. So I'm under no misconception, there'll probably be some transitional obstacles that we'll have to overcome, hopefully our early and significant educational piece will help ease that, but there will be a change for the public. And not only we'll have some hiccups, but we'll work through a lot of it.
Just go ahead.
I just want to make a comment on that. If I read correctly, though, it still will still be every other week pickup. So the change, unless materials change, the change might be to people which day of the week you get picked up on. It's not that you're not going to get picked up till once a month or something like that, or that you have to take your materials to a central location and deposit them there. According to what I believe I read, and I can't find it right now, we still will be curbside pickup, and it still will be as a minimum once every other week, or every second week.
But when there's an issue, you can't just pick up the phone and call Elliot. You can't say, Elliot, you forgot again, Blake, you forgot again.
Fair enough, fair enough.
We anticipate that we will still, that's one of the challenges that come if there are service interruptions or discrepancies, the public is not happy with it. I can guarantee this council that because we'll be the easiest individuals to get a hold of. So I suspect we'll continue to get calls, whether it's producer-based pickup or.
We'll have to give them the benefit of the doubt when we first start, but I agree. So they will start, but if they don't get the answer they're looking for, right away, it will be on our administration and then it'll fall on us. But the big picture, so for our residents, just to be aware, we are not the ones that brought this on saying, hey, let's, so this is something that through the regional group. So to Councillor McDonald's comments, is it gonna save? Yes. So the portion of you're saying about commercial and farm, we were doing it in the past, but every household, residential household, will be picked up and taken care of at cost of the producers. So there should be a cost saving, which is a pro. The con is going to be making sure that we have to make sure that our residents we're meeting their needs. Sort of not in our power because we're going to rely on the third party to do so. So that's going to be the challenge when we first move in. But as far as there will be, I'm assuming, nice cost savings. It's being owned on the producers, which in a way should makes a lot of sense. And instead of being taxed on to our residents. With that said, we are just learning as we go. So it's not like we've had any kind of training. So we're moving into this. We have a year and a half of following what we're doing. We're going to keep doing for another year and a half. Like as they mentioned, we're going to see the effect of other townships that have made the transition, and hopefully they can work out the course before we actually do by 2026. I believe it's going to be switched over completely to them. Is there an opportunity that with the regional working group? So I know we're looking at waste as well, but is there opportunity maybe the commercial and could be something brought towards the upper tier to look at in the regional?
Well, the upper tier is basically like Ben DeHaan, it's kind of like guidance. I can almost guarantee they don't want to get into the operating because every municipality has a different criteria, different population, different growth system. But we are talking it in the group that, what can we do? Well, once we find out what's actually happening, and maybe by August, September this year, we're going to have a good clue of what's coming forward to us. We can start really counting down on going back to council, say, well, this is a directive that we're looking at. Like right now, without all the councils endorsing what they're going to do right now, we're gonna have to go back and say, example, rare possibility that they keep running. How many tons are we looking at producing? What's gonna be their operational costs? And is it feasible for us, for me to go to council and say, okay, we're gonna pick up so many places, so many tons. This is the cost to operating that. And this is their processing costs. So until we know what we're doing, we can't really go to council and like North Glengarry can't say, well, yeah, we're gonna do this until all the numbers and figures and information is given out. What exactly is going to happen? Same as the city of Cornwall has a private, they own the processing plant, a private company runs it. Are they going to make a proposal to keep running it and do our commercial places and like, we're not that heavy in commercial, but you get the Dundas's, you know, Glengarry's and South Stormont, which is a lot heavier than North Stormont is. Their council have to decide what they're gonna do. Council could decide private business, that wasn't our, we don't do it now, we're not doing it anymore. There's a lot of municipalities that they don't look after because we're small, we had capability, we propose that, we're doing this, but everybody doesn't do that. So,
Well, there's more to come, so it's
Well, just a point, and this is what I would hope, is that, I mean, the producers will be using vendors to do the pickup and to manage the waste, et cetera. My hope is that those businesses might want our business to deal with the commercial and the farm and all the people that aren't covered by this program. So hopefully that could become a win-win in terms of negotiations. And, you know, if you're doing a good job with residences, we'd like to as well farm that work out to you to look after the commercial and the farm so that we can still come out ahead financially from where we are today anyhow, but also, like I say, work with the people who are actually doing the work on a day-to-day basis to make sure that they're responsive to a residential and they can also potentially provide support from a commercial and ag perspective. So that's my hope. Whether or not it'll play out that way, it may be an opportunity or a way to look at it.
Just as a follow-up, actually, to Deputy Mayor Densham's point on that, one of the potential benefits of us actually opting out for that transitioning year is that it will actually force companies like Circular Materials and RLG to put these out for tender now. They're going to be looking to expand their fleets. It would give us the potential to possibly divest some of the capital, some of the assets that we have, being the actual equipment itself, as opposed to waiting that 1 year till that's already done deal and they've already gone and making sure they've upgraded their fleets as accorded. So I think it's a prudent decision to go that route and gives us that potential flexibility to negotiate potential sales, something that we may have on the books.
And also, if you mention when we say commercial and farm, so farm, the residential or aspect of a farm, so the farmhouse still will get the residential pickup done. It's more the ag side of things that we're not falling to the pickups. Okay, any other questions? So right now, we're just basically accepting this report to give you, maybe clear it up, Craig.
Through the chair, the motion for again, it does indicate that council is supporting a position to opt out.
And just quickly, so we're opting out a year and a half from now. So is that something that was needed now? We have to let them know that we're
Yes.
opting out?
Through the
So-
chair, this will be happening at all of our townships.
hopefully.
So I'll just reread it so the council is comfortable with, so the council receives the report for information purposes and approves the option to opt out of providing collection services during the transition period in accordance with the Regional Waste Management Working Group that Blake Anderson sits on the committee of. So seeing no other questions or comments, all in favor? And motion's carried. Be it resolved, the council receives the Q1 budget variance report from the treasurer as presented. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor Shane. Any discussions or questions to Carly on the variance report? Councillor McDonald.
It's been the building department expenses. I was just curious about the 227% variance on the leases and service contracts. It was budgeted at 500 and is sitting around 1,100.
Through the chair, I believe that's a lease for printers and scanners. Some of that expense was going to materials and supplies. So it's just a matter of trying to reallocate those to GL.
Thanks, Karen.
Or Deputy Mayor Densham.
Yeah, just one point on the planning, in the planning area regarding the journal entry done at year end for wages. Just wonder if you could explain that. It just kind of stuck out to me as different than how we do all the other departments.
Through the chair, so with some employees having shared responsibilities between different departments. Sometimes through our payroll system, the timesheets can be coded to other GLs and shared. Other times, it's often just easier to do one journal entry as part of our year-end entries, just to allocate the 50% of actuals over. So it depends on how the job description is set up.
Just so how do we understand if we're on track in meeting that one, that particular area, if it's not going to be reported throughout the year?
Through the chair, so with certain positions, they're based on salary with not really any overtime expenses or anything. So usually what is budgeted is very close to the actual for some positions, and then other positions do vary depending on overtime and et cetera as the year goes. But so we have two different ways of treating each position.
Okay, so really keep an eye on the overtime because the base salary should play out according to budget is kind of what you're saying.
That's correct. So the overtime mostly goes is for Public Works Department, whereas other positions wouldn't accrue any overtime.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Seeing none, I think we're, like I say, you see, we're first quarter, a lot of ranging in the between 20, 30. So you got the, like Blake in your diesel at 7,000, you're 25.06. So you are over, just to make sure you're aware of that. But no, I appreciate seeing the percentage, and there's areas like insurance where all of it's taken, so you jump to 100, but I mean, it at least lines up with how I like to see it presented. So anybody else already has questions, further questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the report? Motion's carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 32-2023, bylaw to levy and adopt the 2023 tax rate to be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 25th day of April 2023. Moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Councillor Bajelli. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, I would like just to comment and thank all of Carly in particular, you've been crunching numbers for the last, but also every department, I think, worked together to kind of bring it all together. And we did go, and I mean, the circumstances, we did go a little higher, but again, when we look overall throughout I always have comparables with our neighbors at SDNG, but we, I believe that we've met the numbers that we were looking for, and at the same time, kept in line. I think we're second, in line with again, with a low tax levy. So that said, seeing no further questions, all in favor? Motion's carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 33-2023, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 26-2022, to appoint an interim treasurer to be read a first, second, and third time, signed and sealed in open council this 25th day of April 2023. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor Shane. Any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 34-2023, being a bylaw to repeal and replace bylaw number 11-2020 in its entirety, to set remuneration and expense allowance for members of the council of the corporation of the township of North Stormont, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 25th day of April 2023. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor Shane. Any discussions on the report? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Denson.
No, thank you for pulling this together. I guess the one thing that kind of jumps out at me is the $1,500 cap per conference. We had a unexpected twist in our calendars this go around, and we ended up having in my opinion, quite a good, positive, and fruitful delegation. But it also interrupted our initial plans, which created another expense. So we'll have to keep a close eye at this to see whether or not $1,500 is enough. I mean, it's just incredible the amount that a hotel room has gone up by, especially in the Toronto area, which is usually where the big conferences are held. And so it may be, we may have to look to increase this at some point in time, and I'll leave it to the rest of council whether you want to do it earlier or later, but many of us have came pretty close, if not are absorbing personally some expenses on that one.
Any other questions? Councillor Bajelli.
I'll just follow up on that actually as a potential idea with something like that where I have seen it done in other ways. Is I think the public take general offense to things like us increasing things like per diems, meals, but something that's completely out of our control, such as accommodations, can be separated from the rest of an expense claim. Whereas you could have the actual expense for the accommodations be covered off by the township, be it within a reasonable level, and then separate that per diem / your travel into a separate bracket or wherever you break it down that way. I think that would kind of eliminate that, depending on where a conference may be held, the fluctuating costs of hotels, while still maintaining, you know, some tight guidelines around what's eligible to be claimed and what levels can be claimed for council personally.
Thank you. Any other discussion? So I'll add, so the same comment. So as far as the meals, so alcohol is outside of this policy, so it's removed from, so it's not like the, so it's basically just the food side of meals. When you look at the hotels is what really takes a big hit on, and it's been discussed not only at this, but also at the county. So it's something that when you're looking at taken outside of your own pocket, because you just the room themselves were close to 3/4 of the 1,500. So what you're left with is now accommodation, or not accommodation, but the travel and just your meals. But for now, it's in the budget. It's something as you mentioned, we can keep an eye out and hopefully we can make it work for this for this year. So we do have the mover, seconder. Seeing no other discussions, all in favor of the report. Motion is carried. Be it resolved that this bylaw number 35-2023, being a bylaw to change the zoning of certain lands in the township of North Stormont from the general commercial CG zone to a general commercial special exemption 15-CG-15 zone, and amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 08-2014 be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 25th day of April 2023. We still have Mr. Young here, so that's the mini storage in Avonmore. Any further discussions on that? Seeing none, I guess you're off the hook. Well, wait, let me see if I can, so all in favor. Yeah. Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Peter. Be it resolved that whereas concerns surrounding the accuracy of the voters list has been highlighted in elections past and inaccuracy continue to plague municipal election. And whereas the chief electoral officer of the province of Ontario now has the responsibility to prepare and maintain a permanent register of electors under the Elections Act for future municipal elections. And whereas an accurate permanent register of electors in paramount in upholding the integrity and democratic government. And whereas an accurate permanent register of electors could increase voters turnout statistics and possibly contribute to a positive voters apathy. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of Township of North Stormont requests that the province of Ontario through Elections Ontario and the chief electoral officer utilize any resources available to produce the highest quality permanent register of electors. And further that this resolution be circulated to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Elections Ontario, and MPP, Mr. Nolan Quinn. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor Shane. So this was brought up at our last meeting and was requested to be brought back. Any discussions or comment on process, Council or Deputy Mayor Densham?
Just a quick thank you for bringing it back. I think it's an important topic and hopefully they can find a solution. So thank you for bringing it back.
That side, so a motion has been read. All in favor? Motion's carried. Be it resolved that the correspondence as listed in items 12-1 to 12.5 on the agenda be received. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor Shane. Any discussions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Be it resolved that this meeting adjourns to a closed session to discuss following items under section 239-2 of the Municipal Act SO or S.O.220 or 2001. A meeting as or part of a meeting that may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor McDonald. So do I need to carry it to move into close? So all in favor? Motion is carried.